Hi everyone, my name is Shauna in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing the Disney Channel book tag. This book tag was created by Dearest Emma, and I will link their YouTube channel down in the description below. There is 10 different prompts on this tag that have to do with different Disney Channel shows, and so without further ado, let's get on into this. The first question is Hannah Montana, a book with a plot twist that you saw coming from a mile away. I feel like there's a lot of books I could choose for this because I find a lot of books with like big plot twists to be really predictable. If a book can surprise me, then I love that, but a lot of books don't surprise me with their plot twist. For this one, I'm gonna go with a book that I guessed the plot twist before I even started reading the book because it was pitched with the word feminist in the title and it gave everything away. This book is called Never Coming Home, and Never Coming Home is by Hannah Mary McKinnon. So I did overall enjoy this book, but it had a very predictable plot twist. So essentially there's this guy and he gets married with the plan to eventually hire someone to off his wife so that he can take all her money and basically give himself and his father a better life, because he grew up with a really rough childhood and this is his idea on how to get sort of like a better life. And so he's had this plan in the works for years and he puts this plan into action. However, no matter how much he goes to keep his tracks covered, he ends up finding some things that are sort of getting under his skin and making him realize that someone knows what he did. This book says it's sold with dark wit and a sharply feminist sensibility. That gives away the huge plot twist, and I'm sure most people can see the word feminist and work out what the plot twist in this book is going to be. It was pretty enjoyable up until the plot twist, but then I was like, I wish that there was a different plot twist because it's so predictable if you're pitching this as a feminist book and you're focusing on a male and you have the wife killed off early in the book. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I don't want to like outright say it, but I think most people can connect the dots and be like, oh yeah, I know what the plot twist is going to be in this book. It's still a good book. It's really enjoyable, especially for a thriller, but just that plot twist was so disappointing. I think it should have been like pitched differently and then the plot twist could have actually been surprising. Prompt number 2 is Phil of the Future, a book that takes place in the future. I feel like I read a lot of books that takes place in the future because I love sci-fi and I love dystopian books. For this one, I'm going to go with Scythe because I recently finished the Scythe series. The Scythe series is a dystopian series that is placed in the far, far future in the world. I almost said in the US, but technically they do venture to other parts in some parts of the series. So in the Scythe series, death has been defeated, and in order to cope with overpopulation, they essentially have these scythes that are like designated to help manage the population by killing people. It's a really interesting concept, but it is very like thought-provoking and deep because like it deals a lot with the morality of choosing how people die and who dies after death has been defeated, which I found to be really interesting. The first book is honestly the best one in the series. It did go a little downhill after that first book. However, I do really overall enjoy this series. The third prompt is The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, which was always one of my favorite shows on Disney Channel, and this is a book with your favorite siblings. My favorite siblings are always going to be the Weasley siblings, especially Fred and George Weasley, the twins from the Weasley family. I love the whole sibling dynamic, and I love how like the Weasley twins mess around with Percy a lot in the books. I find that really great. I also really love Charlie and Bill and their dynamics with the rest of the family. But honestly, I love all of the Weasleys so much. Fred and George are definitely my top 2, but Ron, Bill, and Charlie are close seconds. Question number 4, Wizards of Waverly Place, another one that I watched all the time when I was a kid, and this one is a book with a character who has a secret. So I feel like there is a lot of books that I could choose for this one, but for this I'm going to be choosing the Vale Hall series. This one starts off with a book called The Deceivers, and it goes to Scammed, and then the final book is Payback, and it's by Kristen Simmons. I love the Deceivers series. It's one of my favorite series of all times, and it's so underrated. It's a contemporary series with some thrilling moments, and it's basically about a school for scam artists. There's a ton of characters with secrets in here, and I was talking about plot twists earlier. This series, part of the reason I love it so much is because there's mind-blowing plot twist after mind-blowing plot twist, and the plot twists all start at the end of the first book, and then you just don't get a break from the plot twist, and it felt like my mind was just like exploding throughout reading this whole book because it was so good. There's also some really good romance within this series. Question number 5, Lizzie McGuire, a book that would work as both a live action and an animated film. The first thing that's coming to mind for me are books that are fantasy or sci-fi, so I'm gonna go with sci-fi because I feel like the series, especially the first 2 books because I haven't read the 3rd book yet, could make some really great live action stuff with some really great live action like fight sequences, but I also feel like there is a potential to have some really great animation with some really beautiful like animated shots. So the series I'm going to be choosing for this is a Thousand Worlds series. The first book is Dragon Pearl. It is by Yoon Ha Lee, and the second book is Tiger Honor. I've yet to read the third book, Fox Snare, but that is on my TBR, and I'm hoping to get around to it soon. So this is part of the Rick Riordan Presents series, and this one deals with Korean mythology. So the first book follows this young girl who's a fox spirit, and she gets a message that her brother is suspected of abandoning his post on the spaceship that he was working on to go look for this magical artifact. And she knows that something feels off about this, so she decides to go on an adventure to figure out where her brother is and what's truly happening with him and clear up his name, because currently he's like written down as abandoning his post. This first book is really fun, but then it's the second book that I truly like fell even more in love with this series, because the second book follows a young non-binary person who is a young tiger spirit, and this takes place in a spaceship, and you get the main character from the first series in there as well. Not going to spoil exactly how it all connects. And this one involves this young person who is going to go join a space crew. However, as soon as they get onto the ship and start their first mission, everything starts to go wrong. And I really loved the main character's analytical brain and how they worked through everything. I found that was really fun and interesting. There's lots of queer representation in this series as well, and I think this series would work really great as both a live action and an animated film, and I'm really curious to see if it ever does get adapted, what format they're going to choose. Prompt number 6, That's So Raven. Raven can see glimpses into the future. Choose a book that you wish had an epilogue that jumped into the future. This one is sort of hard for me to answer because I sometimes feel like epilogues can be really cheesy and like have a completely different vibe from the rest of the book, which I'm not always like the biggest fan of. God, this is actually gonna be really hard to choose one. It's like the first one that came to mind would be like The Death Cure, but then now we have the, what the frick is it called? The Maze Cutter series? Is that what it's called? I haven't read the series yet. So we have like a series that's essentially like a long epilogue. Yeah, it's called the Maze Cutter series. So we have a series that's like a long epilogue now. That's the first one that comes to mind. Ooh, you know what? I'm actually gonna go with a book that I didn't like, and hear me out on this. So there is a series of standalone new adult romances that take place in Canada, and it's by one of my favorite authors, Katia Rose, and I normally love Katia's books, but there's just one that did not work for me at all, and I'm trying to find the name of this one. This one is called Your Chorus. So these are all like rockstar romances, and I really loved the third book in the series, and I thought the first 2 books were pretty decent. I didn't like this final book because I found the relationship to be really toxic, and there is a little bit of an epilogue within this book, but I want an epilogue that's way, way, way in the future because I want to see 2 things, or one of 2 things. I want to either see how they've matured and managed to develop a relationship that is less toxic, or see if they managed to stay together very long, because based on how toxic their relationship was, I'm not convinced they could stay together for a really long time. And I'm really curious like how their relationship would have progressed given how toxic they are together and how much they were fighting, and how there's like questionable age gap and power dynamics in their relationship. And I think if there was an epilogue to Your Chorus, there would be the potential to either show how a relationship can grow and expand and improve, or there's the potential to show that, oh, we have a happy ending in this romance book, and there's a happy ending in most romance books, but then the happy ending doesn't always stick. So I think it would be interesting to see an epilogue that's way, way, way in the future that can sort of address that. Number 7 is Kim Possible, a book who has a character with an adorable pet. I feel like I'm pulling a Hagrid right now because the pet that I'm thinking of is from the book that I'm currently reading, which I will be done with by the time that I upload this video, and that is Air of Fire by Sarah J Maas. And basically in Air of Fire, there's this character named Manon. I hope I'm saying her name right. I don't know. Sometimes I struggle with saying characters' names that are in different like Sarah J Maas books. There's this character named Manon, and Manon has this, oh my god, I cannot say any words right now. Weirvin? Basically like a dragon type thing named Abraxos. I find Abraxos to be really cute. I don't care that he's deadly. I don't care that he cared another one of his kind. He's so cute. He just gave me a little baby, and I love him so much. The Throne of Glass series follows this assassin who gets saved from the slave mines that she was trapped in, and in order to earn her freedom, she has to enter a deadly competition and win this competition to be free. But that assassin isn't Manon, so I can't like describe who Manon is or anything about that, but like I'm just saying right now and right here, I support women's rights, but I also support women's wrongs. Yeah, I love Abraxos. Abraxos may be one of my favorite characters in the whole series, and if anything happens to him, I might actually cry. Question number 8 is The Proud Family, a book with a family you want to be adopted into. I'm drawing a little bit of a blank at the moment because, like, I feel like so many of the books that I read have really dysfunctional family dynamics, and I don't want to just choose the Weasleys again for another answer. So I'm going to sort of be in the same universe, but I'm going to go with the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them screenplay, which might be cheating because it's a screenplay, but I honestly don't care. I'd love to be adopted into the Goldstein family, like with Queenie and Tina. I feel like I love their sibling dynamics, and I feel like it would always be fun and an adventure to be with them. But I feel like a lot of what they do is also meaningful in terms of history, and while I don't know if I'd be brave enough to like be like Tina and Queenie, I know that like even if I was in the background, I could be supporting some meaningful work if I were supporting my sisters in that. So that's what I'm gonna choose. I don't know if it's the best answer, but I'm drawing a blank because so many books that I read, the family members are dead, or the family goes through extreme trauma, or the family is toxic. So it's hard to find good families in books when most of the books that I read are fantasy, dystopian, and young adult. Number 9 is Even Stevens. In Even Stevens, the main character is in 7th grade. Choose a book you loved in 7th grade or a book you would recommend to someone in 7th grade. So I was in my biggest Hunger Games phase in the 7th grade. I mean, I've never really fully gotten out of my Hunger Games phase, but I was really obsessed with the Hunger Games books, more so than I am now, I would say. Like, I still love the Hunger Games series. I'm still obsessed with them. I still think about them nonstop. There's a difference between like me making a reference to the Hunger Games every other sentence and me loving the series, if that makes any sense. Like, I was one of those like obnoxious people who were like, I need to find a way to bring Katniss into every single sentence that I speak. So yeah, I'm going with Catching Fire for this one because I think 7th grade was when Catching Fire came out. I think I was in the 7th grade and I had like this whole birthday party to go see Catching Fire. That might have been 6th grade. Might have been 7th grade. I don't know. I'm just gonna go with Catching Fire for this by Suzanne Collins. Obviously, I love the Hunger Games. I'm so excited that we're getting another Hunger Games book. Can we just talk about that for a second? And it's following Haymitch's games. Like, obviously we know what happens in Haymitch's games, but I am so excited to see this play out, especially because I want to see the Undersea family more because we don't get to see them very much in the movies. And also, I'm really curious whose perspective it's going to be from. A lot of people are assuming it's going to be from Haymitch's perspective. However, it just says that the book starts at the start of Haymitch's games. It doesn't say it's going to be from Haymitch's perspective. What if it's from like Caesar Flickerman's perspective or something like that? Like, I'm really curious to see how this will play out. It could also be from Snow's perspective again. I don't know. I just cannot wait to see how it turns out and whose perspective it's going to be from, and I can't wait to have my heart torn to shreds because I already get really sad thinking about Haymitch's games and everything that happened in those games. And the final prompt for this is Phineas and Ferb. I love me Phineas and Ferb, and this one is a book with a character or characters that realistically should have got in trouble but never did. Should this just be any YA book that I've ever read? I'm running out of phone storage, rip, so I have to say this really quickly. So the final book that I'm going to be talking about is My Last Innocent Year by Daisy Alpert Florin. In this one, this book covers a relationship that a college student has with one of her college professors. Honestly, her college professor should have gotten in trouble, and there should have been huge repercussions for that relationship and for the relationships that were revealed that the professor had with other people as well, is what I'll say. But there wasn't repercussions and the professor never got in trouble. And that's one of the things that irks me about this book. Like, it's realistic because a lot of professors like that don't get in trouble, but at the same time that professor should have gotten in trouble. And there's so many things I would change about this book, but I feel like it's really good representation of how subtle grooming can be. So yeah, that is all for the Disney Channel book tag. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. I try and upload a video at least once a week, so stick around for my next video, which will hopefully be coming out next week. All my other social media, including my book talk, my bookstagram, and all that fun stuff, will be linked down in the description below. Feel free to go ahead and follow those. I hope all of you are having a great month, and I'll see all of you in my next video. Until next time, goodbye.